Welcome everyone. I'd like to introduce my PhD thesis, which is Imbalance in vascular reactivity between healthy women and men. I'm Ádám, a PhD student, a dentist, and an endodontist. I work at the Department of Restorative Dentistry and Endodontics. My supervisors are János Vág and Beáta Kerémi. My SMS is Petrana Martinakova. My statisticians are Aliz Fazekas and Gergely Agócs. My vision is improving the quality of female patients with cardiovascular and periodontal diseases through providing evidence-based data for personalized care. Here's the list of my two specific goals, of which the first one is comparing vascular reactivity between healthy women and men on macro and microvascular level. A systematic review and meta-analysis started last September. Vascular reactivity is the ability of the vascular system to adapt blood flow to the demand of the supply tissue, and in its regulation, endothelium plays a critical role. When changes in endothelial function appear, changes in vascular reactivity will follow. This happens physiologically with aging, but also can happen pathologically with diabetes, periodontitis, and CVDs. Estrogen is said to have a protective function on the endothelium, and this might be the reason behind the observation that the age-adjusted CVD death rates and its incidences are higher in men. There are numerous ways to assess vascular reactivity, for example, the post-occlusive reactive hyperemia and the flow-mediated vasodilation or dilation tests. I have been talking about these functions or diseases, but first we need to understand the differences in a healthy state in endothelial function so that we can have an understanding about endothelial dysfunction in diseases. So our aim is to compare reactive hyperemia between healthy women and men. Our clinical question, is there a difference in vascular reactivity between healthy females and males, based around the PFO framework, where P1 is reactive hyperemia on brachial artery, P2 is reactive hyperemia on skin, F1 and 2 are healthy female and male, and the outcome measures are change in artery diameter, change in blood flow. Our hypothesis is that women have higher vascular reactivity than men. Our systematic search was carried out in 3 big databases, and I also showing you our search key. After the selection process, we have 68 eligible full texts so far, and the complete analysis for the brachial artery and the skin groups are still ongoing. However, we finished the absolute and relative diameter change and type 2 peak results for the brachial artery. First, I'm showing you the mean difference in absolute artery diameter change between the two groups. As the title suggests, the outcome measure is mean difference in millimeter between the two groups. The overall heterogeneity is 56% between the two groups, and the outcome is 0.0 with the confidence interval kind of symmetric around the 0 line, which means there is no statistical significantly difference between the two groups, and this means that the absolute diameter change is the same in the two groups. Next, the mean difference in relative artery diameter change. As the title suggests, it's a mean difference in a relative number between the two groups. The overall heterogeneity is 87%, and for the analysis, here we could include 42 studies with over 5,500 patients. And the final outcome is minus 0.02 with statistical significance. This means that female have 2% higher vascular reactivity than male. And lastly, I'm showing you the mean difference in time to peak artery diameter. As the title suggests, the outcome measure is mean difference between the two groups in seconds. The heterogeneity is 0%, which is great. And the final outcome is 8.25, favoring the male, with a statistical significant difference, which means that males reached the peak artery diameter on average 8.25 seconds slower than women. We also did a data analysis for the different subgroups based on the setups of the FMD tests, and I'm only showing you here the outcome measures, the cumulative outcome measures between the two groups, and the ones highlighted with bold are the statistically significant differences. The strength of this study is that there was a huge number of studies and participants included from multiple countries, and all of the participants were healthy and non-smokers. However, a big limitation of the study is that the FMD test was not standardized between the studies. For conclusion, we could say that females indeed have 2% higher vascular reactivity or higher dilation on the brachial artery, and they even reach this total dilation faster. All in all, by itself, it might not be a big difference between the genders. However, this could have an impact on personalized medicine. And also, for research implications, the sexes need to be separated. And also, for women, the menstrual cycle should be monitored. Here's the progress so far, and currently we are working on the citation chasing. As for my second project, which is comparing post-occlusive reactive hyperemia on gingiva and forearm skin between healthy women and men, aimed to be an observational study. Studies on big arteries and skin suggest that females have higher vascular reactivity than male. And for its evaluation, post-occlusive reactive hyperemia tests are commonly used. One method, laser specular contrast analysis, can not only measure this vascular reactivity, but it can only visualize it by rendering the readings to a two-dimensional heat map. Pore test can be even carried out on the gingiva. However, a clinical study earlier showed that on this region, males had a more pronounced and prolonged hyperemia. So the question arises, do females have higher ischemia-induced vascular reactivity on every body part? So our aim is to compare the pore on different regions between healthy women and men. Our clinical question, is the vascular reactivity superior in females on the gingiva and skin as well? Based around the PFO framework, where P1 is pore test on the gingiva, P2 is pore test on the forearm skin, F1 and 2 are healthy female and male, and the outcome is change in blood flow in laser speckle perfusion units, which is the arbitrary unit for the laser speckle contrast analysis method. And our hypothesis is that women have higher hyperemia in both regions. The implication would be that if so, then the compensation for ischemia is of different degree for the genders based on the region investigated. For recent clinical trials, I brought you two where they measured the post-occlusive reactive hyperemia, or they introduced vasoactive molecules to the gingiva, and both studies showed that the hyperemia in males was higher. Here's the two projects once again with their planned submission rates of this September and this November. And I would like to end my presentation with the quote, "To know is to know that you know nothing. That is the meaning of true knowledge." Thank you for your attention.
I would like to ask regarding your second topic about this pore test. Could you explain a bit what does it mean, this pore test? Thank you.
Okay, so PORE stands for post-occlusive reactive hyperemia. Reactive hyperemia is the increase in blood flow. Post-occlusive means that they block the circulation of the area, and this pore creates a local ischemia in the region. And to compensate for this local ischemia, the blood flow of the area has to increase to compensate for the metabolites that are created in the region.
I would like to ask you about the heterogeneity regarding in your first forest plot about the artery diameter change. Mm-hmm. If you could enlighten me there a bit.
Okay, so if you remember, there was kind of big heterogeneity between the studies, and we did that regard there might be the biggest heterogeneity originated from the heterogeneity in the FMD test, so the difference in FMD tests between in the studies, because it can depend on many things. Of course, one thing is the equipment they use for the measurement, then the equipment, how they set up the whole equipment, where's the occlusion cuff located, where they measure the artery diameter with the ultrasound probe. And also we could say that, if you remember, these are very small numbers, and with very small numbers it's easy to reach a bigger heterogeneity between the studies.
Is there any data regarding the ages for the population included? Like, is there any difference between the age groups of females and males?
Thank you for your question. We actually measured, or not measured, we actually collected data from only women in the reproductive age and age-matched males. And also, if we will be powered enough, we plan to do a subgroup analysis based on the age stratification. But usually these are, let's say, between the age of 18. The oldest patient is about the age of 50. So, yeah.
I understand. One second question. Like, you mentioned that the strength is like including only healthy patients. Does that mean that without any comorbidities, without any known genetics or anything like this?
Actually, for genetics, I'm not really sure, but yeah, we collected only the healthy population, where they mentioned they didn't have any diabetes, they didn't have any hypertension, they have the laboratory readings of normal values, they were also non-smokers, so yeah, a healthy population.
What do you think was the reason that generally there's a common sense that there's a difference between female and male patients, but in your study, I mean, most of the outcomes, there were no difference?
Actually, there was a difference. In the absolute artery diameter change, there was no difference, but we can translate it that if so it is known that female have smaller arteries and vessels than the male, and if the absolute change is, let's say, 0.02 or 0.2 millimeters in millimeter change, that would mean that's a bigger change in the female group because they have smaller arteries, and many other things could influence these, the different lifestyles of the males and the females. Of course, we measured that, or we included only the healthy population, but yeah, it could depend on many things.